What's going on, and welcome into your first episode of the Casual Gaming News Conversation. I'm one of your hosts, Nick. That's Connor, and this is your weekly video game news-based podcast from Call of 64. This is going to be a weekly show, and we're going to be discussing the industry every single week. This is like my dream show. Connor, how you feeling?
Feeling good. We are one day out from Co-op 64 Day, finally getting to talk about the year ahead and the stuff that we have planned. And by the time you're seeing this, all will have been revealed. So a little bit of a time capsule here for you, but I'm excited to finally do the show that we've been talking about since July or so, or really maybe before then. But we're very excited to bring this new show to you every week on Mondays for the free feeds, as well as early over on the Patreon. But it's really exciting.
Yeah, so we're going to talk just a little bit Patreon announcements. This is just crazy. This will be showing up on the Casual Gaming Conversation feed on Spotify and Apple, along with the Casual Gaming Conversation. Every single Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern, it will be posted. It is taking that time slot over. This show will be recorded on Fridays and be posted on Patreon right after we finish up the show. By the end of the day on Friday, it's going to be definitely in flux as we learn between Connor's work schedule and everything, and with just sometimes we'll have Fridays off, and it's going to be a bunch of madness. But by the end of Friday, you will have this show for you over on Patreon and on free feeds on Monday. And then obviously the other side of the news is the Casual Gaming Conversation will now be going up on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern, whereas it will be posted on Patreon Sundays. End of day, same exact situation over there, where we got a lot of content we got to shoot on Sundays. We're going to try to get up as soon as possible. Sometimes it'll be there a little bit earlier. Sometimes it will be there a little bit later, but we're going to be trying our best to get it up as soon as possible.
Yeah, consistency is a big part of kind of what drives our company and what we do, where you can expect a TikTok every single day. You can expect the Casual Gaming Conversation at 9 a.m. On Monday, now on Wednesdays. So it's a little bit frustrating to have to kind of manage trying to get this up in a timely fashion for the people over on Patreon, but it's just a matter of we have our full-time gigs. We are fitting this in the only time slot we possibly can. Like, we're very excited to do this show, but we have limited time to be able to do it for this and the Casual Gaming Conversation. So we want to get it up as early as possible. It's just going to be really inconsistent on the exact timing, but you can rest assured that it will be up on Friday every single week on Patreon, and then for the Casual Gaming Conversation Sunday over on Patreon as well.
And if you love our podcast content, we also have the bonus episodes of the Casual Gaming Conversation going up over on Patreon every single Thursday.
Yeah, we have a ton of fun episodes going up over there. We have the PlayStation All-Stars Dream Roster. Nick and I bringing... I brought like 100 characters to throw out to see who we would put on our dream roster for a potential PlayStation All-Star sequel. We have guessing Metacritic scores for the upcoming games in 2025. And we have a big one, the Uncharted 4 spoiler cast. We're all going to go ahead and play it over the next month, and we're going to do a whole in-depth discussion talking about one of all of our favorite games, except Brady has never played it. He's through Chapter 4, talking to him today about it. I was very excited to get his initial impressions of the opening hours of Uncharted 4, but if you want to play it throughout the month and enjoy that, or if you already played it and just want to hop in from your memories, it's going to be a ton of fun over there. So yeah, a lot of really exciting episodes coming up over on the bonus episode of the Casual Gaming Conversation.
Yeah, so Patreon, it's insane. We now are going from one podcast to 3 podcasts a week, including the bonus pod over on Patreon. Obviously, we also have that bonus content at the $10 tier, where every single week you'll either be getting exclusive TikToks, Recollection Retro, or the Co-op 64 podcast, which is just so much fun. Shooting and producing this stuff over the past 5 or 6 months now with you and Brady has just been one of the treats of a lifetime, honestly, where like you shooting the first Recollecting Retro with you, us just driving around and going to game stores, and then we finally finished shooting and getting McDonald's and just hanging out and enjoying time together has just been like such a delight, and really it's just been an honor to do with you and Brady. Anything else you want to touch on with the Patreon before we hop into it?
It's just the beginning, which is exciting, but I just want to highlight the fact that if you are a fan of Co-op 64, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got was that you just want more podcasts, more podcast hours. And if you are supporting at the $10 tier over on Patreon, you're getting something 5 days a week. Between the bonus monthly show that is once a week, so it's once a month, but it rotates out to the extra TikToks, Recollecting Retro and the Co-op 64 podcast. Then you have that bonus episode. Then you have the Casual Gaming News conversation and the Casual Gaming conversation. And you have the Twitch stream broken out every Tuesday over on YouTube. So you're getting a lot of co-op content. And we hope that this slate that we've laid out is going to be something that people are really excited about, and we're excited to hear your feedback. This is the first time we'll be on a podcast able to talk about it that you will hear. So we wanted to go a little bit more in depth on the future slate and the Patreon. So very exciting times. Thank you guys so much for the support on Co-op 64 Day. I'm sure it was amazing. But we're really excited to get into this next year of gaming and talking about the gaming news and doing the casual gaming conversation as well. So it's very exciting.
Just a little bit of housekeeping for the casual gaming conversation itself. The next episode will be our Game of the Year podcast up on Wednesday for free feeds, where it's going to be us finally announcing and discussing our top 10 games of the year for each of us, and then the company top 10. It's a hell of a podcast. We already shot it. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And then when it comes to the Patreon, we've already covered most of that. Twitch streams. We will be back in full force with Twitch in 2025. Monday, I can't believe that this is a thing that we get to discuss. Monday, Brady's playing Bloodborne, which will then go up on YouTube if you miss it every single Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern for free. I can't believe it. I can't believe we convinced him to fucking do this.
And of course, this is with us co-piloting the whole thing. So we're going to be jabbing at him, making fun of him dying over and over again to the blood-starved beast at the start of the game.
And we'll also be holding his hand, I assume, a little bit, trying to help direct him. This is Brady's first ever Souls game. This was something that literally he was like, I will never do. And then we threw it on a thermometer for Extra Life, and I was like, and he's like, thank gosh we didn't have to do it. But like, there was also a little bit of glimmer of hope in his eyes, being like, but I kind of like could have done it. And I'm like, dude, fuck it. Let's do it for Monday stream.
Fine. He'll be totally fine. He'll get his teeth kicked in for the first few hours, and then he'll get the hang of it just like everybody does with Bloodborne. Yeah,
it's going to be awesome. And then for Tuesday, Thursday streams, Metroid Prime for me. Kicking off the year, we have the full slate all the way through February decided for my stream side of things. I'm going to be playing a lot of shorter games just because between Bloodborne and what Connor's playing, we got some lengthier games. So I'm going to be starting out with Metroid Prime and then hopping into, I believe, Sifu afterwards, which is going to be fucking awesome. Because, of course, I just love getting my ass handed to me in games, and Sifu will definitely do that. Right. And then Connor, Nier, you excited?
Nier Automata, yeah, a game that I have had on my list, on my backlog for a very long time, that I've started before and fell off for one reason or another, but I'm excited to finally play this on stream with you guys and get my initial reactions to this beloved classic for a lot of people. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. If you want to go and join the community Discord with over 2,000 members, it is in the description. A link to that, our link tree. Just hop over there. The Discord's been awesome. Today it's been fun to go and see everyone's predictions of what we're doing. Even though it's really funny, I clarified last night because I was like, I don't want people to get their expectations too high. I was like, none of us are going full time. And then immediately like 3 people were like, I think Nick's going to go full time tomorrow. I'm like, that's not going to happen. But the support over on Patreon definitely helps get us a little bit closer. But shout out to the Discord community. It's been a lot of fun getting excited between Game Awards and now Co-op Day. It's been a blast over there. Merch. We have new merch, which is also linked in the bio. This is our college design for Co-op 64 established in 2023. It's a sick-ass design. It's on mugs. It's on T-shirts. It's on hoodies. And I think it's great. I think that the design that we came up with is really fucking awesome. It's simple. We always didn't want to do anything too flashy off the rip. But yeah, I think that it's a really well-crafted design, and you can go and find it over at co-op64store.com. And then lastly, go and review us over on Apple Podcasts. This, like I said, will be going up on the Casual Gaming feed. So if you want to go and toss us a review over there, it helps us get out to more people. Connor, are you ready for news story number 1? Or you got anything else for me?
Let's do it.
All right. News story number 1. Half-Life actor stirs up Half-Life 3 rumors with cryptic New Year's message. This is from Blaine Marnell over at GameSpot. Quote, for the last 2 decades, players have looked for any sign that Valve is moving forward with Half-Life 3. The 20th anniversary of Half-Life 2 came and went without any announcement about the long-awaited sequel. Now, actor Mike Shapiro, who voices the enigmatic G-Man in the Half-Life games, has shared a cryptic New Year's message on X that has some fans speculating that Half-Life 3 could finally arrive this year. In the brief recording, Shapiro visits his unsettling G-Man voice as he says, "May the next quarter century deliver as many unexpected surprises as did the millennium's first." He then cryptically notes that the time of year is fluid like music before adding that he'll see you in the new year. This message follows previous reports by Valve leaker Gabe Follower, who claims that Half-Life 3 recently entered playtest for family and friends of Valve developers. If so, that would be a remarkable cone of silence from the trusted few. Since there have been many other reports that suggest a new game is closer than expected. Connor, Half-Life 3, is it time? Do we finally get this? Is it can Valve learn to count to 3? Is it time?
I don't believe it. I'm just going to come out and say that I feel like the Half-Life fans have been put through enough of a roller coaster at this point, and this is just another hill on that ride for them. That it's just a cryptic message to get people speculating and thinking. I do think that there are things pointing in a good direction. I would like to see this happen, but I just feel like it's too late for them to go back to the well on this. The Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 are classics, of course, and having played them earlier this year, I do see why people enjoy them as much as they do, even though I wasn't exactly smitten with Half-Life 2. I liked Half-Life 1 a little bit more, but with Half-Life 3 eventually coming out, if it does eventually come out, I feel like why would they let the voice actor do this if it was necessarily as close as people think that it is? It doesn't sit right with me. It makes me think of the Venom voice actor of last year, I think, doing kind of a tease and people thinking it was a Venom game or something. And it's not, those things don't always line up the way that you think that they do. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that where there's smoke, there's fire oftentimes, but this is Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like I feel like I was talking about a Half-Life 3 in 2007, 2008 in my friend's basement being announced at E3.
Yep.
And it's just that just never happened. And I feel like with Half-Life Alyx coming and going, and they very clearly want to do something new and interesting, and that's why they went with the route of VR, that I don't know what Half-Life 3 could do. And I feel like I did see Gabe Newell say this, is that they don't really feel like they have this great innovation for them to dive into with Half-Life 3 to really make it meet the occasion. So I personally think that they can just ride the name of Half-Life 3 and just make a stellar sequel and just build, and not necessarily have this massive innovation like they did with Half-Life Alyx, which is obviously considered one of, if not the best VR game ever made. So I would like this to happen, but I just feel like we've been burned too many times. I don't think it is happening.
Yeah, I'm in the boat that it's the guarantees in life. You bet on the Chiefs nowadays in the Super Bowl. You don't bet on Half-Life 3 showing up in general in the games industry. Valve can't count to 3. It's a joke that's been made a billion times at this point. And you nailed it on the head, where I was just I remember being 12 or 13 and we're in the basement and we were in a pillow fort. It's E3 season and somebody throws out Half-Life 3 and just you're wrong. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. It is so out there. I do think eventually we get there, but going and betting that this cryptic tweet is going to lead to guaranteed money in the bank, hey, it's time for Half-Life, no, there's just not a chance.
And they just also don't focus on software at this point. We had that card game that they came out with, and Half-Life Alyx, and the card game totally flopped. I think it was called Artifact.
Yeah.
And then you have Half-Life Alyx, which was obviously a niche VR title. It was big for VR, but it wasn't this mainstream thing. And they have Steam. They are just printing money. That's their focus. That I don't really feel like they are driven to do something like this. It would have to just be a passion project fully. And I do think that the people over at Valve are willing to do something like that and just make a game purely out of passion. They don't need the money to be able to keep going or fund the next project or whatever, because they have that through Steam. So I think there's a lot going against this. I think there is some going for it. Obviously, this is something going for it. And then 20-year anniversary and the leaker having some sort of rumblings that people are play testing it. I just don't want people to get their hopes up, and I'm not going to until I see confirmation. Until Half-Life 3 is in my PS5 or downloaded on my PC, I won't believe it's real.
That's a good point. Like, they could announce it, and I'm just gonna be like, all right, that's a 2040. Yeah, like we're not getting this for a while. But yeah, dude, when it comes to stories like this, where it is the rumblings, you brought up the past of the Venom voice actor and everything. If it wasn't Half-Life 3, would you be a little bit more in, or is it more the Half-Life 3 that you're just like, I can't bet on Half-Life 3?
It's Half-Life 3. Yeah, I think with the Venom rumors, I thought that was like a sure done deal. There was also the leak in the Insomniac leak, so there was more to that that was like kind of pushing that narrative. But here it's just like, it's just one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously it's one of the guys. The G-Man is like the main villain, obviously, for Half-Life, so he would probably know if there was a Half-Life 3, but it's just weird for him to tweet this out, and you have to imagine that Valve like isn't happy that he tweeted this out unless they approved it, and if they did approve it, that's weird in my opinion. Like, that's not how you tease Half-Life, in my opinion.
Yeah, so. I feel like we also discussed this off camera a couple days ago, being like, the way that this is going to get announced, if it were to get announced, isn't at a PlayStation showcase. Maybe Game Awards would be like the moment, or a SGF, but like, this isn't a PlayStation showcase. It's most likely just going to be a tweet if it happens, where it is just like day and date.
Right. It's so interesting because like, you would think that only people like a rock star can do that, and they do that with their announcements. But Half-Life was so big and popular until the end of Half-Life 2's episode run, and it's been forever since then, that you would just have to imagine that there isn't this groundswell of hype other than it being this mythical force. When we were streaming Half-Life, when I streamed Half-Life 1 and 2, there was a few people who would pop in and be like, I love Half-Life 1 and 2, but like, the numbers just did not support that there was this massive fan base for Half-Life that really draws people in. Maybe that obviously that is an anecdotal experience, but that's just from what I can see. And from my conversations with people in our Discord and everything, I think there's a few fans out there, but like, there isn't this like fever pitch like there was at the end of Half-Life Episode 2 for a Half-Life 3. And I just wonder if it's too late. So
yeah, I feel like it is a little bit late, unless they come out and it's like, here's gameplay and it looks fucking awesome. And like, they need to almost earn back the trust of the gamer at this point, because it's just been so long, being like, what does this look like if we do get Half-Life in 2025? How would that work? Or 2026? I would assume it wouldn't be this year, even if it did get announced. But hey,
I mean, if people are playtesting it, then it shouldn't be like super far off. I don't think it would be this year either, but still.
All right, ready to move into story number 2?
Let's do it.
This is from Mike Straw at Insider Gamer. The headline: PlayStation continues to focus on live service games. PlayStation, quote, PlayStation isn't giving up on the live service games anytime soon. In a recent interview with Japanese outlet Famitsu, PlayStation co-CEO Herman Holst and the company still believe in the model despite recent hiccups like Concord. Quote, the game business is constantly changing due to various factors, including technological advances, new genres, and a way of playing, Holst said via auto translation. However, one thing remains constant is people's desire for great entertainment experience and attention to games continues to grow. However, this has also created competition, and like many companies in the industry, we have had to make changes to our business to solidify a more sustainable operating base. Holst continued to say that PlayStation will continue to focus on developing the live service titles along with story-driven single-player titles that our players want, end quote. Connor, are we going to get more moments like Concord in 2025, or does this seem right to you? Let's start with the first question. Are we going to get another Concord 20, like Fair Games? Is that going to happen this year, and it's going to be a big shit show like Concord, or is it time to go and move on?
I mean, I think it would be time to move on personally after the Concord fiasco, but I do think that Fair Games, based off of the trailer that we saw, which is just like a vibe setter, it wasn't any gameplay or anything, and the concept that they put out there of this like Payday style shooter, I think there is a space for that in PlayStation, and I do think that sounds fun. Will it garner an audience? Will it be met with backlash? I don't think it'll garner an audience. I think it will be met with a ton of backlash, and I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. But on the other hand, I think that they have to try. Like, you can't just cede this ground to Fortnite and Apex Legends and let them take all the eyes from your single player games, because that's what people are spending their time on. People buy a PS5 and they just play Fortnite, or they just play Madden. And like, you need to get them to be more involved in your ecosystem and buying other software. So if you can get a piece of that pie and let them buy microtransactions in your game and get a full rip off of it to fund those Sony first party games that are getting more and more expensive, then I don't really blame you for trying, but I just don't believe that you can dig yourself out of the hole that Concord has put you in. You had Helldivers earlier this year, which was a surprise hit, $40, people loved it, and it was massive. And then you have Concord, which comes out $40, so you're trying to recreate this moment, and it just is so toxic around the conversation around it is so toxic that it's already started to bleed into fair games. And if they announce something in the future, Bend is working on a live service game, Sony Bend, and it's just like people already don't really love Days Gone that much. It's pretty split. Some people really like it and some people just hate it. That when Bend comes out with their live service game, it's just like the makers of Days Gone, a developer we don't even trust that much, is making a live service game. We don't even want this. That it's already the hand is already dealt for that game as well. That it's just, it seems like they're chasing something that they just can't win at. So you might as well just focus on what you're good at. And it felt like at the start of the PS5, that was the conversation: is big budget AAA first party games. That's what Jim Ryan said. And then now it's like, oh no, live service. And of course we're still going to get the Sony first party games, but I don't think that it's good for the brand to just keep falling on your face with live service. And it's really not even their fault. Live service is so it's so oversaturated that it's really hard to garner an audience there. Like even good games that like get a decent little following are looked at as like failures after a few months. Like Power World set the world on fire, and then people are just watching that concurrent number go down and down and down, and they're like, well, Power World's dead now. And it's like, it had its time in the spotlight, and if Sony is expecting to get something that's going to have the longevity of something like Fortnite, they're probably not going to get it. The numbers are not on their side. So in my opinion, I think they have to try, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, this is just an attempt, in my opinion, at just trying to make a shit ton of money. And like, you're a company, that is going to be one of your goals, is to make a lot of money. And the live service space is where you do that, to go and be able to say, hey player, give us a lot more than $60 over time or $70 is an important service and everything. But you got to come in with quality. I gave Concord a 7. I think that Concord is a good game. I think that, like, as a player, I'm having fun with these mechanics and switching character to character to go and upgrade myself. So by the end of the match, I am like running fast, reloading fast, and able to aim better. And I'm like, this works. This is a fun game. It has good mechanics. But to go in and be like live service immediately, it's like a turnoff. Like in the games industry right now, it feels like, oh, another live service game, hero shooter, especially like another one of those. We don't need those. It's so
weird when Marvel Rivals is absolutely killing it right now. Yep. It's like clearly you did not want a hero shooter. You just didn't want that hero shooter.
I also think a part of that though is IP brand recognition, and then also also though, it's got to be free. Like a free to play service is what they need to do, and I'm curious to see if that's where they go in the future compared to these $40 titles. If I had to guess, I would guess Fair Games is going to be $40.
Me too. Yeah.
And I think that is just not a feasible future for PlayStation as a business, being like, hey players, come over here. It's going to be $40 every single time, or it's like, no, I can just play Fortnite for free because I have hundreds of hours and all my friends are over there.
Do you think Concord was always going to be $40, or do you think that Helldivers changed the narrative?
I thought it was always going to be $40.
Interesting.
I think that they want to get the money in early. I think that it's also, though, player feedback for a long time being like, hey, we don't want games riddled with microtransactions. Like, that is a huge thing that the audience and player base I hear all the time want.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. But at this point, it was like, no, you do. You just say you don't, because clearly, if you come out with a quality product, it needs to be free to play still at this point, where it's like, I'd rather get the microtransactions and be able to hop in day one with all my friends for free. Like Concord, I think at the end of the day, if it was free to play and they had outfits and everything, I don't know if it would like be shut down at this point, but I can promise that like they weren't making a ton of money off this game no matter what, just in this space, because
it gave it a chance.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if more people could have just tried to play the game, I think that it could have survived longer than obviously it did. Do I think it would have been this hit? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like there's so much riding against Concord, but I I think like you said, like it's a fine time. I wouldn't give it a 7 from the limited amount of time that I played it, but like it's not a bad game by any means. It's a totally passable first person shooter that has a clear budget behind it and direction. So, yeah, I think that I was cast for Concord, and but at the same time, for the overall picture, I don't really blame them for going back in.
The last part of this quote, though, is just the thing that I keep on going back to. Along with the story-driven single-player titles that our players want, they know what we want. This is the CEO being like, hey, we understand, like, Ghost of Yotei.
That's PlayStation Core.
Yeah.
The PlayStation Core wants the single-player experiences that PlayStation has come to be known for. There we go. So, but that's not they need to expand their audience. They already have those people. You know what I mean? And you're going to get a few people, obviously, to buy a PS5 for the next God of War or Intergalactic. But if you want to get the new people, the people who are coming and buying PlayStations for Fortnite, you need other options for them. And if you want a bigger slice of that pie, because they get a portion of the money that Fortnite makes, obviously, from like each skin. They get a little bit if it's sold on PlayStation, but they want the whole pie. So, and if they can get that, that's a huge boon for the company. And you have shareholders, you need to grow, and that's one of the directions you can go in. I just don't think it's going to work. So.
Yeah. I mean, with our company, we talk about it all the time of like, the reason we post every day is they're lottery tickets. We're just going and buying lottery tickets. I feel like them producing these games to some level is like, like it can fall on its face, but like, what if it works out? It's a lottery ticket.
But the issue is that lottery tickets, generally speaking, if you're not like going crazy with it, are you lose and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
But for PlayStation, it's like they put out Concord and it's like, people are talk about 2024 and PlayStation. They talk about Concord, and it's like it's embarrassing, and it damages your brain and it damages your future titles too. So like, it's not worth putting yourself out there in that way.
It's funny because like after the Helldivers conversation, I said it. They're 1 for 1 right now. Like the conversation post Helldivers was like, could Sony make live service games for $40 and this work out? And then Concord completely changed the narrative. Now we look at fair games, and then whatever the future is, it's like, shit, this is not gonna probably work out too well, which is a little bit of a different beat than before. Connor, are you ready to move on to the next news story? This is coming from Andy Robson over at Video Games Chronicles. Headline, now Black Myth, Wukong director blames Series S for Xbox delays. Who could have saw that one coming? Quote, the Chinese developer announced last summer that the Xbox version of the popular PC and PS5 action RPG had been pushed back due to internal quality concerns after it was expected to release in tandem with the other versions. Now, the games director has added further confusion to the situation, posting on the Chinese social network Weibo, translated by Reset Area, quote, everyone's fighting power is so terrifying, but the only thing missing is the Xbox robe. It seems a bit wrong, in parentheses, but that 10G shared versions without a few years of optimization experience, it really can't be taken down. And the parentheses there. The statement appears to reference Xbox's Series S's 10 gigabytes of RAM, which is lower than the Series X's 16 gigabytes, and must be shared across the system's OS and games. It's currently a mandatory requirement for developers to ensure that their games are compatible with both the Series X and Series S in order to release them for Microsoft's consoles. This has led to some developers to argue that having to cater to the Microsoft entry-level console limits their potential of current-gen games. There's been plenty of speculation regarding Wukong's delayed Xbox release, with some questioning whether it may be related to difficulties in porting it to the Series S, an issue that has affected some games in the past, including Baldur's Gate 3. However, publications including Forbes have previously reported that the delay was due to Sony striking an undisclosed console exclusivity deal for the game. Connor, end quote. Connor, this feels like it makes a lot more sense than the exclusivity over at PlayStation, because that always felt like just randomness. This feels right to me. Does it feel right to you that this makes sense and just works, especially with the Baldur's Gate 3 situation last year?
Yeah, did they ever get that over there? Did they ever get that to Xbox?
Oh, I have no fucking idea. They must have. Oh, no. It was when they went on stage, they were supposed to announce this coming over to Xbox during their Game Awards speech, and then they forgot about it. And then they were like, oh, shit, no, this was an announcement that was supposed to be made at the end of 2023. So it is over there, I believe.
Yeah. We all saw this coming when it came to the Xbox Series X and S. it was a bad decision from the jump. It gets more people into the Xbox ecosystem, which is all that Xbox seems to really care about, is getting people on Game Pass, getting people playing games on Xbox with the Series S. But it's going to come back to bite them in these situations. I don't have a ton to say on this just because I think it's disappointing for Xbox fans. I want it to come to Xbox, and I think that it should eventually if they can get it to work. But I don't think it's worth it for Game Science to put it out on Xbox Series X and S, have it suffer on S and really be bad, have people buy it on Series S and it be terrible on Series S, and then that goes back to them. Like,
yeah.
It's not fair to the fans who have a Series S. It's not fair to Game Science for releasing it just so they can get it out to a new audience in a poor state if they just can't get it to work, but they want it on Series X where it will work. I would like Xbox to make an exception, but clearly they're not willing to do that if they're not willing to do that for the likes of Baldur's Gate 3. So we'll see in the future, but I imagine they eventually get this to work in some really scaled down version that doesn't look very good, but I think it's worth it just to get it on the Xbox platform for those with the Series X, the few people who have a Series X.
I was about to say, the biggest issue with this and the reason that Microsoft is doing it is there's more Series S's out in the wild than Series X's. Like, they have a huge player base that plays with just a Series S because they want to be part of that next generation without spending up for the Series X. Like, prime example, my best buddy Sam, he bought a Series S to get in the next generation because he wanted to play the latest Call of Duty on something a little bit nicer than the PS4. And he loves it. But, like, yeah, you don't want a lesser version of the game to go and be out there because then it does look poorly on Game Science. And that is really important to their brand. And obviously, like, this game gets nominated for Game of the Year. Everyone's going to be looking out for what this team is doing next. You can't really have a misstep at this point with the amount of momentum that team has.
It already looks not excellent on PlayStation 5. Like, it doesn't run great. I mean, they're really pushing the boundaries with their visuals, and the art design in that game is really impressive, and how the scale feels even in a more linear game is really quite impressive. But when it comes to putting this on Series S, I feel like it's just impossible. There's no way. So when you can take that into consideration. So yeah.
You ready for the next one? Hopping in with GameSpot's Eddie McCouch. The headline is GTA 6 could sell 40 million copies and make $3 billion in the first year alone. Quote, according to a research company, GTA 6 could bring in more than $3 billion in total revenue during the first 12 months after launch. A report from Financial Times cites data from DFC Intelligence that say GTA 6 could bring in $3.2 billion in its first year, and that the game is likely to surpass $1 billion in pre-orders revenue alone. David Cole of DFC Intelligence told GameSpot that the long success of GTA 5 could help GTA 6 get off to a faster start. A little bit further into the article, quote, for GTA 6, the $3.2 billion predicted includes physical and digital sales, along with online microtransactions. Cole said GTA 6 should expect $1 billion via pre-orders alone, with GTA 6 potentially selling 40 million copies in its first year and 100 million by 2030. Cole also predicts new versions of GTA 6 will come to the next PlayStation and Xbox consoles, as well as PC, helping improve sales overall. Connor, GTA 6 $3.2 billion in the first year alone. That is an insane stat. Is this going to actually happen? And more importantly, like, how important is the launch point of GTA 6 for the longevity of how well it sells when it comes to the online transactions and obviously GTA Online launching in a formidable state?
I don't think it matters. Like, I think it can launch however it wants to launch, and it's going to do crazy unless it's like completely broken.
Yeah.
And to be fair, GTA 5 Online was completely broken at launch, and clearly it did not matter in the long run. So I'm not shocked by these numbers. I've always said that I think that GTA 6 probably cost $1 billion to make, which is almost double of like anything we've ever heard for any other development for a modern AAA game. I think that this game is going to be massive. I think that it's going to have a long run, and it's funny that they're like, it's going to have a version on the next PS5 and Xbox console. It's going to have the next version on the next PS5 or PlayStation and Xbox console if there is a new Xbox console. So I think this game is going to be a staple in the gaming industry. It's going to get people who don't play games to play games. Whether or not it's going to meet those expectations from a quality standpoint, in my opinion, and for me, like, being excited about it, it's to be determined. I'm not a huge GTA guy by any means. I like the GTA games, don't get me wrong, but I've always preferred Red Dead and really a lot of other IP over GTA in the same way, not in the same way that people seem to have a total fever around their excitement for GTA 6. So yeah, 3.2 billion in the first
year,
Yeah.
and then 1 billion in pre-orders, which like I think the 1 billion in pre-orders is next to guarantee almost
Yeah.
at this point. Like the fever pitch that will be the GTA, like, hey, this is the day it's coming out, and then everyone just immediately pressing the pre-order button and just letting it ride.
Don't
I
hold me
think is
to this.
guaranteed.
I think GTA 5 made $1 billion in one day.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if that is from pre-orders or if that's from just like people going to the store and
I-
buying it. It was a different time.
I assume-
2013 was a different time.
Yeah.
I went to I went to Meijer at midnight. I walked there because we had one walkable for us, and it was like me and two other guys. And I was like, "You got GTA?" And they're like, "Let me go get it from the back."
Yep.
It was awesome.
I can't wait. It's going to be huge. Does this hit this year at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if they weren't going to hit, they would say it at this point. So
Yeah, I think that even seeing a Jeff Keighley tweet out being like, Happy New Year, it's the year that GTA 6 is coming out. I think that people in the industry are that are probably a little bit more tuned into what's happening over at Rockstar, even though they are Fort Knox when it comes to information. I think that there is a little bit more of an understanding that like, oh no, this probably is going to happen, especially the stories that came out earlier at the end of last year that were, hey, there are publishers that are terrified of releasing a release date because they don't want it to be by GTA. They are trying to get out of the way. For me, that makes a lot of sense at this point. It is terrifying to go and release something by that giant game. I do think it is this year at this point, though, too, also. All right, ready for the next one?
Yep.
Only a couple more. This is also from Mike Straw at Insider Gamer. This is another...
Insider Gaming.
Is that Insider Gaming? Great. It is the headline: PlayStation co-CEO opens to bring back PlayStation classic franchises. In a new quote, in a new interview with Famitsu, PlayStation co-CEO Herman Hulst was asked about past PlayStation series and the possibility of bringing them back. According to Hulst, it's not something that's out of the question for the company. Quote, numerous IP holdings we hold are important assets for PlayStation, and as part of our efforts to strengthen our portfolio, we are continuously looking at opportunities to leverage past IPs, as well as developing new franchises, Hulst said via auto translation. Connor, it can happen. He's saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
Do you actually believe that this is going to deliver, let's just say, 2025? Do you think that there's going to be announced by the end of 2025 that is, hey, here's a PlayStation 3 to 1 franchise coming back from our portfolio?
I think we get something in some capacity, whether that be from a first-party studio doing a collection of, say, like the original Ratchet and Clank games, and well, they already remade the first one, so maybe Jack and Daxter. Let's go with Jack and Daxter instead. Or you can have something like Resistance making a comeback, or Killzone. I think Killzone does have some brand notoriety at this point with the Hellgas. People see that and they're like, Killzone, they have good memories with it. Bring it back. So I think that they have a good swath of IP that they can pull from. And when you have successes like, and obviously it didn't end up working out for Toys for Bob, but you have successes like the Crash trilogy, you have the Spyro Reignited trilogy, which did sell very well. It sold well enough for Crash to get a fourth game in the franchise. And you have to imagine that Sony's looking at the likes of Astrobot, which cost way less than their average game to put out. 60 people made it in 3 years, and they're like, we can sell a few million copies of this at $60, 3, 4, 5 million copies if it's of high quality, and get a good rip on it, and it doesn't need to take forever, and it doesn't cost $400 million like Spider-Man 2 did. It's like, let's probably get some of these guys out of the basement and bring them back up and dust them off and bring them back into the spotlight and see if we can't make something interesting, or just touch these up and give them like modern reimaginings like you did with the Crash Insane trilogy. So I would, if I had to bet, I think Jack and Daxter or Sly Cooper, it has the highest chance. Of getting like a full-on remake. I think you could have that with God of War. People are talking about the original God of War trilogy, of just bringing that back. God of War, maybe at the peak of its popularity right now. It was pretty big back on the PS2, of course, but it's gotten even bigger. That you could get another set of you could double dip on the original trilogy if you do a full remake, or just remake the first one. Who knows? And do it again if that's a success with number 2. So I think that those have a decent shot. I would like to see Uncharted come back. The fact that I was so against Uncharted going away Uncharted ever coming back after Uncharted 4, and then we got Lost Legacy, which I think is excellent. And replaying Uncharted 4 right now for the first time since 2016, I'm like, I would love another one of these. And I want them to go with a different character and do like a different direction, but give me another globetrotting adventure with high budget set pieces that are just a marvel to be a part of, like they are in Uncharted 4. So yeah, when people hear of old IP, they think of the PS2, but Sony like has some important IP that was on the PS3 that like isn't super old and has notoriety that I would like to see them bring back. So
you said like bringing these characters out of the basement. I'm just imagining like dragging Daxter out of the basement, being like, "You're coming back, buddy." No, I love Uncharted. That's the one for me that I'm like, that would actually legitimately be really exciting to me. Whereas, let's just say Sly happens, I just don't want it to be done by like a Sony first party. Like, don't have Bluepoint go and remake a Sly game like that. For me, I'm like, no, Bluepoint, do something else, do something exciting.
Small team. I know that it didn't work out with Sanzaru and Sly 4, but that's just one instance of trying it. You can give it to another studio, a small team, and let them toil away on a Jack 4. You know what I mean? But you also have to take the direction of PlayStation Productions, the movie studio that has helped put out shows and movies now that have had decent amounts of success, that you could see a lot of these coming back in that form or fashion, that they could try to utilize that. You had the Ratchet and Clank 2016 movie that was a bomb that like did horrible, but that was almost a decade ago at this point. That like they have now a laundry list of quality titles that have done well at the box office or done well on TV that they can probably be like, let's try this again. You know what I mean? Let's try to bring Sly back. And they had that trailer for a Sly Cooper movie that was kind of uncanny and weird. But let's try to bring Sly Cooper back in that way and maybe able to do that, or maybe just team up with Secret Level and make an episode that's not actually just a PlayStation ad like they did.
Oh man,
for the PlayStation episode of Secret Level. So, yeah, what do you think?
I want them to bring IPs back. I have a couple that would excite me, but I honestly am at the point that I'm like, I want more new shit than anything else. The fact that we finally have a new IP from a Sony first party with Intergalactic is like, thank fucking God. I cannot wait to see what Sony Santa Monica does with whatever Cory Barlog's working on. I'm like, fuck yeah, give us something new and exciting. I obviously, like, when Spider-Man 3 comes out, I'm gonna play the fuck out of it. I'm gonna platinum it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. When
it needs to be done. Yeah. They need to stop making Spider-Man games after that. And they will not. You already know it.
Here's the thing. I think that they can shelf it for a little bit. Maybe they go and do Wolverine. Maybe they the rumored X-Men leak that happened from them. Oh, did you not see that timeline from the Insomniac leaks?
I don't remember.
X-Men was part of it. Wolverine obviously finally needs to get that title out there if and when that happens. What are you feeling with that right now? Just
same old. I don't think it's coming out.
Yeah, I feel like it still is. But it's time to see it if it's going to happen. But yeah, I'm just so excited and ready to see what PlayStation Studios has in the future. I'm not really worried about the past right now. Like, that just doesn't excite me.
Right.
You want to talk about exciting, Connor? This next news story. Headline, PlayStation Plus free games for January 2025 revealed. This is Darren Bontis over at GameSpot. Quote, PlayStation has revealed this month's batch of free games for PlayStation Plus subscribers. All PlayStation Plus members will be able to claim a trio of freebies starting January 7th, including Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, and the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. End quote. Connor, does this do anything for you?
There's absolutely nothing for me. But I do think it's not like a terrible month. Yeah. I think Suicide Squad, the price point for Suicide Squad is free at this point. That I think that a lot of people who have actually played Suicide Squad said like it's not a $70, $60 title, however much it was when it launched, but it has some fun to be had. It's just like a 10-hour experience. So for free, jumping around, is it Metropolis?
Yeah, Metropolis, I assume, is that's Superman. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so like jumping around Metropolis as these characters, taking on these iconic superheroes, I think would be like a fun time for free. Not something that I'm going to check out, but if you've been holding off, I think that it's at the right price for for free. Hot Pursuit, I think, is as I understand, one of the better Need for Speed games, a series that I haven't played since Carbon recently picked up Most Wanted
there we go.
PlayStation Vita, which is apparently a really good version of that game. I'm excited to check that out because I haven't played one, like I said, since Carbon, and I do like the series quite a bit. But Most Wanted is apparently one of the better ones, so there you go for that. And then the Stanley Parable I have on Steam already. I have not gotten to it. I've only heard great things, but it is a older title that I feel like a lot of people have probably already gotten to. So
yeah, I think that this is one where you hit the download button for all three, and if and when you sort of want that experience, you go for it. But I feel like a lot of the people that are excited about Kill the Justice League, they've already played Kill the Justice League. Like, there is not a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, now that's free, I'm going to hop in. This is one of those, like, either you're excited or you're not excited at all. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to go and pick it up, like even to hit the download button. Just I don't even want to worry about it. And then things like Need for Speed and the Stanley Parable is just like, cool, these are exciting titles. There's some level of like quality being put out there, but it's not something that it's like, all right, I'm going to drop playing Uncharted 4 for the spoiler cast to go and play the Stanley Parable right now. Like, that's just not how it works. And I feel like a lot of gamers out there, they might be excited to just be like, hey, I don't have a lot in my backlog, I'm gonna hop in, let's have some fun, play some of these older titles. But if you have something that like is sitting on your PS5 post Christmas, you're not hopping into these titles.
No chance I'm dropping Uncharted 4 to play Suicide Squad, but I'll drop Uncharted 4 to play Lara Croft Go on the PlayStation Vita.
Connor, you are killing me
Going
right
for that
now.
Platinum. It's a 1 out of 10 Platinum.
Oh, there you go.
But apparently, not apparently, I played Hitman Go and Platinumed it, and that's a fun game. These are mobile games that were ported to the Vita and PlayStation 4, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying it, actually.
Next up, we have a story from Collider. This is written up by Tamara Jones and Steven Weintraub. The headline is, "You think we didn't talk to Halo? Secret Level's Tim Miller and Dave Wilson have big plans for Season 2 and beyond." The question was posed, quote, "Did you go after certain things where they were like, get the hell out of this room?" Miller responds, quote, "I get a little shaft when I read online and they're like, hold on, these assholes took Spelunky when they could have taken Halo or something like that." I'm like, man, you think that we didn't talk to Halo or something? Wilson goes further. "The creative director at id Software is a good friend of ours, and so are the folks at Microsoft. So we made a big plea because one of the things both Tim and I would have loved to do is something that isn't currently available in the games, like crossovers. We wanted to make a Master Chief Doomslayer crossover episode, and I spent a whole weekend crafting this impassioned letter of my childhood. And it's exactly what Tim said. They were like, nah." Miller goes even further and says, "Of course we begged for Half-Life, so you can imagine," end quote. Connor, this dream, Doomslayer versus Master Chief, it could have hit our screens, but Microsoft said, nah. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, Spelunky just catching a stray at the start of that. Absolutely uncalled for, but I would love to have seen this. I think that the fans would love to have seen this. And my speculation is that Xbox, who let them do something with the Outer Worlds, clearly is a little bit more protective of their tentpole IP, of the stuff that would be considered their crown jewels, where Doom is obviously at the top of its game right now. Halo is in a different space, but has this long history on Xbox that it is one of the more beloved titles in the gaming ecosystem, that I imagine they were like, we don't want to give any creative control to these things, even though it's just like this one-off mini movie or whatever. It would have ended up being like a short film. So, but then you also have to imagine that, like, you look at what they did with PlayStation's IP, and PlayStation probably gave them some sort of directive that they kind of had to do, just like basically an ad, that Xbox could have had some sort of creative control there and kind of tailored this and stewarded this in a certain direction. And it just didn't end up coming to fruition. And maybe they didn't want to even go down that path. But it's a bummer. I think this would have been super cool. Maybe have them like fight. Who would win the fight, Nick?
Give me Doomslayer, and I don't think it's close.
Here's what I would say, and I feel like we've had this conversation before. It's Batman with prep time. If Master Chief had prep time, he would find a way. He always finds a way.
I don't know, dude. It's Doomslayer. Doomslayer's I think that Doomslayer beats 90% or 99% of video game characters. It's just like Kratos, give me Kratos, give me Wukong, and give me Kirby. Those are the three that I'm like, for sure would smoke Doomslayer. But other than that,
I think it's close, man.
All right. But yeah, no, I'm not disappointed by this. This sounds right to me, where Xbox does seem to like make missteps every now and then, and this could have been a win. Xbox, you're right, doesn't have a lot of wins, but it's also like you cannot fuck up Halo more after Halo Infinite. I think that that's a huge part of this, where it's like Doom, we have this great momentum, like Doom the Dark Ages, it's gonna be fucking rad, but Halo, a lot of people are just like, Halo Infinite was all right, super fun multiplayer at the start, but I sort of fell off. Oh, it's not a forever game. Where's the battle royale? Like all these questions come up about Halo, and they're like, we need to control the Halo narrative. We cannot let the Halo narrative get out there and be go on a secret level episode and be like, oh man, this is the death of Master Chief right here. Because I do feel like we're in a spot where Halo obviously does not have great momentum. I feel like if you had another misstep, that people would be like, all right, it might be time to shelve Halo for like 7, 8, 9 years compared to if you ask me, all right,
People
I think
were
we're
saying that after Infinite, that
Yeah.
they kind of wanted to just go away for a while.
yeah, and I think it is going to go away for a bit. I think we're not going to hear something from Halo Studios for quite some time.
Well, I mean, I think there was speculation that 343 was just going to get shut down altogether.
Yeah.
And like the fact that they said something and that they were going to switch to Unreal Engine and rebrand and move in a different direction, I think you probably get a new Halo game by the end of the Series X run, depending on how long they end up actually going. Maybe with like the new handheld. You do something with that?
I think that can work. It's almost weird. I'm like, Gears of War E-Day is probably even further out than the next Halo game. Like, that's where I'm at with that title, where I don't think we're getting that anytime soon. But I do think that a Halo will be necessary to, like, once again, you need to reclaim the narrative if you're Xbox with your tentpole IP, especially where it's like, all right, we're losing games consistently over to these other platforms when it comes to exclusivity, times exclusivity. I just want them to go and have a moment where it's just, okay, it's Halo, it's Gears. They will come to PlayStation 1 year timed exclusivity. That's what I've said for a long time. You need that year of exclusivity to get people on your platform. If you don't have it, you're gonna lose a lot of people. I do think that Xbox is in a really powerful position right now, post Black Ops, post Indiana Jones. I know that those aren't exclusives, but they are making a shit ton of money from them.
You think Indiana Jones sold Xboxes?
I
can't imagine.
I just can't imagine in general. But also, it's like, if that doesn't, what does? And like, I guess
Elder
Halo,
Scrolls,
Elder Scrolls for sure.
Gears,
But
yeah.
let's be honest, Elder Scrolls is day one coming to PlayStation.
Yeah.
I believe it's day one, which is like, in my opinion, if you just wanted to go and like secure a lot of people to go over and buy your console, 6 months. 6 months of Elder Scrolls early on Xbox.
And it has to be great.
And if it's great, people would go over in droves and buy Xboxes just because it's one of those high-level IPs that you can only get there and you want it really badly. Like, that's why people have PCs and PS5s. Sure, God of War Ragnarok's going to come over to PC in like a year and a half, but you want it day one. You want to be playing the game, be part of the hype cycle, and go and have that experience. The patient gamer will always be the best gamer. But in this scenario, the patient gamer needs to, you need to like go and turn on the people like me that are gremlins that need it right away and everything. And when it comes to Xbox and their IP, that like I would, even though I'm not a huge Bethesda fan, like if I didn't have an Xbox and Elder Scrolls was exclusive, I'd be like, that's a once in a lifetime type of title. You need to get it.
They just added that wheelhouse. They're not doing that anymore,
which is fine.
I mean, I don't like it as somebody who enjoys the gaming industry. I don't like the idea that Xbox is going the way of the dodo.
I know it is sad, but let's just take a quick prediction, and we'll have our predictions episode over on casual gaming and everything. But like, does it, obviously it's going to continue? Does this like have massive ramifications for this year in gaming when it comes to their tentpole IPs that are like going to be fucking awesome? Or do you think that they're like
awesome.
Microsoft is just like, we don't give a shit about the gaming division, we need money, that's all that we care about, we don't care about the brand, we just need the dollars to come in from the software at this point? Where are you at with that?
What do you mean, like on whether or not they're going to be able to make a comeback, or whether or not these games are going to sell well?
I was more leaning on the side of exclusivity. Do you think that all these things are timed exclusives? Do you think that
yes, for the most part? I mean, obviously Outer Worlds 2 is not. I think Avowed 6 months probably, I would imagine, if that.
That's an interesting one, because Outer Worlds is day and date, and so is Halo, or not Halo. So is Doom. Doom is coming PlayStation day one.
Legacy titles is what you would say, that they were on PlayStation before and have an audience over there. So
do you think that we're gonna have a news story that we're gonna cover on the show where it's Phil Spencer coming out being like, everything's day one over?
There's already rumbles
everywhere.
of that. There's news stories out today that kind of allude to some feeling towards that, but nothing concrete. So
I mean, it's going to be exciting with Xbox this year because I assume that we will be reporting on the show a developer direct in a few weeks, which I think is going to be by far the best developer direct we see. I assume that they go with a full slate, maybe no Outer Worlds I could see, but I assume that we will get Avowed there. We will get South of Midnight there. We will get Fable there, I assume.
if for that to be exciting, you need to show Fable gameplay and you need to give a release date for Fable. Otherwise, that they don't have something to reveal.
I think that they will do gameplay, and I don't think we get a date. Same deal with Avowed last year. We did not get basically any date unless it was Hellblade when it came to the first half of the year during their last developer direct. I think that that's the cadence that they want when it comes to showing off these games. And if it's not coming in the first half of the year, we're not going to get a date. I assume that we go through that process, and it is, hey, Avowed is February, South of Midnight is May. And then it's like Fable is our Christmas game. We're like they might do the winter 2024. They might or fall 2024 with that one
Avowed?
or 2025. Even further.
Yeah,
What?
just like a month.
Just because it's so crowded.
Yeah,
I think though that
I
like,
wish they would. I just want that game to do well because I think it looks cool.
yeah, and you're the champion of Avowed on this channel. Like I'm excited. It's really funny. I asked this question: what game in the new year will you not get to that like you're excited about? You think would be cool, but it really depends on the reviews and how well it's being discussed and everything. And I'm like, my answer is Avowed.
Yeah,
to
I'm
that.
pretty confident that game's going to review well, and hopefully that pushes people to be interested in it. But we'll see.
Obsidian doesn't miss, and that's what we said when it came to Machine Games and Indiana Jones. And for all the people that bet all their chips, being like, it's Machine Games, of course it's gonna be fucking awesome. They were right. Like that game is really great. So it is exciting. All right, the final news story. This is one that I was like, should we put in there? Should we not? But it's a personal one. This is from Evan Campbell over at GameSpot. The headline is Hi-Fi Rush Studios officially reborn at PUBG company. Quote, Tango Gameworks is dead. Long live Tango Gameworks Inc. That's the new reborn name for the Hi-Fi Rush studio, which is now officially a part of PUBG publisher Krafton Inc. Tango began last year under the Xbox Game Studio umbrella before a tumultuous few months saw the developer almost shuttered permanently before Krafton stepped in, end quote. I also just have the tweet that they sent out with the new year and everything. And in big bold letters, it says, a new start. Tango Gameworks Studios has been reborn as Tango Gameworks Inc., proudly joining Krafton Inc. We are excited to continue crafting games that bring joy to players around the world. Thank you for your continued support as we embark on this new journey. That is the end of the tweet there. Connor, arguably my darling, is announcing, hey, we obviously the news story that we've been picked up by Krafton was a large one last year after that team got laid off. They're back. It looks like with them bringing in the Hi-Fi Rush IP over there, it's like, it looks like this is going to happen where I will get a sequel to my third or fourth favorite game ever. How do you feel about this?
It's interesting. Obviously, Tango made The Evil Within, they made Ghostwire Tokyo, and then they most recently made Hi-Fi Rush, spearheaded by legendary game director Shinji Mikami, I believe, for all of those titles. And he's recently left. He left before the closing of the studio and now the obviously reopening of it. I'm curious to see if a Hi-Fi Rush 2 will meet that expectation without him and what this means for the studio as a whole. I'm glad that they got picked up by somebody. I'm glad that they still exist. They are one of the developers that I do look forward to every title because they're generally pretty creative, pretty different, pretty weird. And I would love a Hi-Fi Rush 2, and obviously it seems like we're going to get it. It's just a matter of when and of what quality will it end up being. I would say 2027, 28. You think they're just starting development on it?
I
it's
think
a smaller
so.
Game,
I think though they produced it and then they did some DLC boss rush sort of things after the fact, which definitely delays the timeline
They've
a
not
little
been working on it the whole time since they got
exactly.
shuttered,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, they got shut down and then had a couple months in there where they were not working on this at all. Here's the thing. I could see this be something that gets announced by the end of this year. Like, hey, this is I think Game Awards.
Well, think about
at
how
the
they
end of the
did
year.
think about how they did the last one.
It was a shadow drop.
Shadow drop.
But now there's excitement. Like that IP it didn't exist, and the excitement was the shadow drop. I think that now that there is clear excitement, there is a fan base. Guess who it is? This guy that really is excited about this.
How much do you think the excitement for Hi-Fi Rush came from it being on Game Pass and it being an Xbox exclusive? Because there's obviously fanboys or whatever for Xbox who will play anything that they put out and be excited about it. So you already have that built-in fan base that I wonder if now that it's not exclusive, if it can just ride off the name of the IP.
I think it can. Like between the high Metacritic score and the critical acclaim it got last year, like it got nominated for I think 3 Game Awards, and we're talking about the greatest year in gaming history in 2023, right. And it was up there with some of those titles. I think that if you played games in 2023 and like you have some level of a finger on the pulse, if you're listening to a show like this, you know about Hi-Fi Rush. You know that this game is quality, and it's not because it was an Xbox exclusive. It wasn't just because of Shadow Drop. There's games that Shadow Drop all the time that are like, all right, like I might check this one out today, and it doesn't do anything for that consumer. But Hi-Fi Rush did. It was one of the highlights of Xbox's current generation. Like when you look at wins for Xbox, I think arguably the number 1 win is Hi-Fi Rush.
And second is Indie, probably.
Yeah, at this point it's Indie, and then I would Forza Horizon 5, and
Forza is like almost like not a win. It's like a given. You're just like, it doesn't move the needle really because you're like duh.
And then Halo's release was like, this is fucking awesome, and then like 3 weeks later, people are like, is this awesome? I don't know. I still love Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
But and so do you. But yeah, this is one that I think is a win. I think that we're going to go and leave whatever the news drop is when it happens. I think there's going to be a groundswell of excitement that is going to be like, fuck yeah. And if you haven't played it, I think that Hi-Fi Rush 1, I think there's enough people out there that are like, this game fucking rules. Play the first one, get excited about the second one, especially now that it's not Xbox exclusive. You now bring in the PlayStation 5 player base. You now bring in, it's on Switch too. So like,
no,
it's not,
they couldn't get it to work, I imagine. Do you think it's guaranteed that it's Hi-Fi Rush 2?
Yeah.
That they don't do another IP?
I don't think that you bring in the IP and sign that over. They don't have the Evil Within IP, which is a large part where I'm like, okay, you brought in this IP, you got it sold over to you. You either are making Hi-Fi Rush 2 and another project, or one day you need to bring in that a contract to go and make the Evil Within 3.
I will say that this Craft-On partnership isn't necessarily... We've seen it happen before with them, with their... They partnered up with the team that made the Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
And clearly that didn't end up working out great for them. So I don't know if they're the best stewards of this franchise, of this team, but I would imagine that a more storied and well-developed studio like Tango Gameworks is probably better suited to have success than somebody making their first game.
And they're
studio making the first game. Obviously, there's developers there that have made multiple games. So
and they're bringing basically everyone back. Like they're like, hey, we want to recoup everyone that lost their jobs and make sure that people are able to work on what they were passionate about, which I truly believe is Hi-Fi Rush 2. I think that they finished the first one and they're just like, this is fucking awesome. What a win coming after Ghostwire Tokyo, which got like middling reviews. Some people really enjoyed it. Some people thought it was a little bit lackluster. But to go and just have a like straight up W, to be, and like I said, Xbox's momentum completely shifted after that dropped, and then they lost all of it with Redfall. But like, for them to go and be like, yeah, let's do Hi-Fi Rush 2. Let's get back in the studio. Let's work on this thing. I think that this game... I think that they worked decently fast. When did Ghostwire come out and everything?
That came out at the start of the PS5, like 2021.
Exactly, and so 21 to 23, like
you have to imagine there were 2 separate studios.
I assume so, but like
2 separate teams rather.
But I think that they are probably all. I would assume they're all hands on deck, because you bring in a studio that makes a game like Hi-Fi Rush, and you say, make Hi-Fi Rush 2. You don't you play it safe in that regard, meaning like we want to go and bring someone in because we know the product that we're going to get after the fact is going to fucking deliver. Connor, you got anything else for me?
No. I do want to say that when it comes to these casual gaming news conversations, it's going to ebb and flow when it comes to the length of the episode. It's going to really depend on how many news stories there are, how much is going on. So starting the show in early January is a little off, but we got some good news stories this week. So it was exciting to be able to talk about this stuff with you. But some episodes are going to be way longer. Some of them might be a little bit shorter, and we'll just kind of go however long it takes to discuss these. But we're not going to put ourselves have arbitrary restraints on the length of the podcast.
For sure. And I will just throw out, this is going to be a work in progress show. This is obviously so new for me to have to read 8 articles. Definitely should have grabbed a water before this one. Immediately I was like, damn, that was a bad idea. But it's going to be a process. It's going to be a learning process for Connor and I as we are producing more content than ever before. But it's really exciting. Like go back to November of 2023, and I'm like, this was my dream show that I've always wanted to produce something like this. Doing it with you is a blast. Being back in the host chair is awesome. It feels great to go and be helping lead, because it's also great to not go and completely commandeer the podcast. It's so much fun to go and hear you deep dive in on some of these news stories. I feel like you do a phenomenal job. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. This has been your first episode of the Casual Gaming News Conversation. If you like that, please consider going over to Patreon, getting this show 3 days early, along with the Casual Gaming Conversation 3 days early, and the bonus Casual Gaming Conversation over there. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Peace out.